Lapse the steering wheel here. Give me the steering wheel. Hey, steering wheel. Somebody tell him to give it to him. Come on! Whoa!
Your leg, my please. Your leg.
How the f*** is this possible?
I'm driving like a grandma. Get that, Ralph? Did you hear me? From the radio. The rest of the race. Ralph, acknowledge. Now, come on, close him down and kill him. We've got a lunatic on the track down the interstate.
Hello and welcome back inside the Part From Rafer podcast number 906. This is Todd.
No, Todd, not now.
A.K.A. Negative Camber. You know why I've asked you here.
You must convince the villagers that I'm harmless.
That's exactly what I need you to do tonight. For your kind consideration, what are we going to do? We're going to talk about Formula One news because, well, there's a lot of Formula One news to talk about these days. You know, what with Danny, Rick, and all that. But I have to cover that. And it's not a race weekend. After dominating the podcast for so many weeks, it's finally time to go back and introduce my other co-host. You know her, all the way to the right coast of our nation's capital. In our nation's capital, right? Let me get this right. Right coast of our nation, in our nation's capital, where she plies her skills. I don't know what she does, but you know her, you love her. It's the lovely, the redoubtable Grace. How you doing?
Nobody knows what I do.
Nobody, and that's probably best that way.
I'd have to kill you. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you would. What are you drinking? A Malbec? That's what TB wants to know.
I am out of my cat lady glasses.
Oh, nice. Cat lady glasses.
Yeah.
Nice. Hello to all of our Patreon supporters that have joined us in the audience. Great to have you here chatting away with us. Grace is drinking wine. I am drinking agua.
Yeah, I have some of that.
See,
too,
I'm representing Spain here tonight. So agua. Is that Spanish? I think it is. So there you go. I've got that going for me. I am so multilingual. It's amazing. So, Grace, a lot has happened since we last had you on. And
yeah, like 7 weeks ago. Yeah.
I know. We've got
goodness.
Pedro Acosta on the podium.
Ooh.
We've got, Lando in the house. Right? And you are in full papaya hair and vote for Pedro gear. I'm loving it.
That's right. It was a tough choice, so I went with both. We're just going to confuse the whole thing together. It's fine.
Right.
We're
showing your
supporting
love
everybody this week.
equally for MotoGP and F1.
Well, it was good. It was a good race. I was very nervous through all of the
Yeah, well, who wouldn't be?
in Mandalika. So yeah.
Yeah. Because you were wondering, does Pecco have the pace?
No, well, that seemed to be not the case. But, you get to this place where you're like, it would be kind of like Pierre Gasly being fifth or something. You're just sort of like, hold on, man, just finish, right? Like, there's so much about like, Frankie, you can do it. Just don't mess it up, right? Like, so anyway.
Yeah. What'd you think of the
sixth? Like, hold on, man, you can do this.
What'd you think of the Jorg Martin snub there in the paddock, huh?
Oh,
snub?
that was totally a snub. It was 100% a snub.
Totally a
He was
snub.
totally like, I did not. So they're in the pen just like in Formula One, right? At the top three are there. And, Martin's like talking to his people. And Pecco Bagnaia walks over, just shake his hand and say, hey, nice job, good job. Yeah. And he totally is just like blinders, just looking like, no, I'm just talking to these people. Like, yeah. He
Total
was
snub.
Big time. And then finally he was like, oh, you're here? Fine. Here's a handshake. Oh,
yeah.
Man.
Yeah, that was
He was
harsh.
out of there as fast as like Lewis Hamilton trying to avoid MBS, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're here
Exactly.
and I'm just gonna keep on going.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. The drama that is MotoGP.
And that Pedro Acosta, in his own protest, because they thought he had a tire pressure infringement, because just like in Formula One, nobody cares about tires. Why are we talking about tires, right? And so he just didn't celebrate. His first time on the podium in MotoGP, he just stood there, like, I'm not taking this. So
Not doing it.
Right on.
Yeah.
But it stuck. He got it.
He showed him.
Well, stewarding.
Yeah.
It's, inconsistent stewarding, not just for Formula One.
What? No.
I love it, right? Like, can't we just be consistent across series and across, time? What are you? What? No, it's not happening.
No.
So,
No.
Formula One's got that too.
Oh, boy. It's crazy. It's crazy. So, let's talk about some Formula One news, shall we?
Yeah.
Why not? So, for all of you Renault fans out there, I apologize up front. You're not going to be happy with today's big news that Renault Alpine is getting out of the Renault F1 engine building. And they've confirmed today, I read this over at O2 Sport, that they're ending their F1 engine program ahead of the 2026 regulations. You know, if you were snide, you say, oh, I guess the regulations are a little too complicated for the French. And they're not.
Never stopped them.
No, they're not happy about it. I don't blame them. That's an ego blow, you know. But according to reports, Renault Alpine will switch to a Mercedes customer supply engine program, saying, quote, Formula One activities at Vary, excluding the development of new engine, will continue until the end of the 2025 season. Following the consultation process and dialogue with the employee representatives of Villers-Chatillon, Alpine has decided to establish an F1 monitoring unit. I'm sensing word salad. This unit will aim to maintain employees' knowledge and skills in this sport and remain at the forefront of innovation and hypertech, Alpine's various projects. So,
They have no idea what they're doing, is what I gathered from that.
they got a plan.
Oh,
And reports suggest that the office will continue developing for other motorsport series, as well as Alpine and Renault car projects, and that no one would lose their job. But you can understand, I can understand why they were all protesting in the weeks leading up to this decision. You know, look, as negotiations are going on, they were worried about their jobs, number one, of course. There has to be a sense of pride that they, you know, I'm sure the men and women at that factory feel like they can make an F1 engine for 2026 that's competitive. And that's a tough pill to swallow when the parent company says, you know, we don't think you can. You know who can? Mercedes. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to go buy a Mercedes and put it in a Renault car.
yes, but I think you started this story out with, you know, if you're Renault fans, you're saddened by this. I don't think you should be saddened. What is
You're going to
Renault
look at the
showed
upside.
us?
This is the glass half full.
I'm just saying, like, Renault, what are you doing? Where have you been for the last bottom, right? So how can you only have up from here, right? So sure.
Well, here's the upside.
I said you're new.
And I'm going to ride that wave with Grace. I'm going to say this. If you're French, you're probably upset that French intellectual property and gray matter aren't toiling away at this project in order to come out and really celebrate all things French. And I get that. On the other side of that, what you could do is look at your neighbor McLaren and see what they were able to do with a Mercedes engine, right?
Right.
And so you've got the resources behind you, and you've got, you know, the chassis, aero, all that. And if you've got a really good lump in the back, like McLaren, you can win races. You can actually beat Mercedes like McLaren's doing, right?
They could, but let's not get too on the upside there.
All right. Well, I'm just trying to, I'm trying to be positive.
I mean, this is Renault. I mean, let's not like get crazy here, people. They've never really fully sent it. So just because you have a Mercedes engine, I don't know that means that all of a sudden you're going to be the next big four.
Right.
Maybe you just won't be last.
Maybe. But you'd like to think with a Mercedes in the back, they'd be... Well, we're all assuming that Mercedes is going to hit it out of the park for the 2026 engine.
Well, it still has to be better than what Renault's producing.
Oh, zing.
I'm just telling you like it is. People, I watch the sport. You watch this sport. I don't know. I feel like James Vowell, like you didn't need to see the underside of the Williams last season to know that it was slow, right? Like I got eyes. I watch this sport.
Well, yes.
You're beating stick. Congratulations. Woohoo.
I know. And they've got to be over there going,
Hey, what happened?
hey, what happened?
And
You know?
especially Ocon, of anybody that has every right to be like,
Right. Right.
I mean, that guy's career is
Right.
explosion right there with that team. So
Yeah, it's going to be rough.
good old Ocon.
Melton, our supporter, says, in my opinion, Renault got what they wanted with the hybrid and built a lump. All right. Lump of poop
Yeah,
emoji.
lump of-
Someone there was smart enough not to try it again. Okay. So there you go.
I mean,
Well, maybe there's some wisdom in that and saying, hey, look, we tried the whole hybrid thing, you know? We were all in. We did the hybrid thing. We had it all set up in 2014, and we've been low on power ever since, and we're locked in, and the engines are frozen. There's nothing we can do. And if you didn't get it right out of the box, like Mercedes and others did, then you're pretty much tied to a engine that's down, and maybe they don't want to take that gamble again. And, you know, can you blame them? Maybe they're not as big a risk takers these days as they have been in the past. I can't fault them for that. Can I?
Flavio will help him out.
Flavio's got it under control because he walked in and said,
Jesus Christ.
and that is Flavio's voice, by the way.
That's right. I mean, what's to worry?
Yeah. What's to worry? You got Flav.
That's right.
You got Flavor Flav in there. He is going to fix it all, man.
That's what I hear. I mean, what
Yep.
did you want? New engines and Flavio? You're good. You got it.
And you got Ryan Reynolds and Patrick
I don't know.
Mahomes.
Speaking of people who clearly didn't watch this sport before making that financial decision.
Oh, I know. Pat should have called me. I mean, I'm a lifelong Chiefs fan. I was born and raised in Kansas City.
See?
I used to watch your Steelers come, and just so I could watch Franco Harris beat our butts because I loved Franco Harris. So there you go. And so Pat, knowing that I'm a lifelong Chiefs fan, I'm surprised he didn't call him and said, hey, Todd, you're doing a lot on F1. You've been podcasting on F1 for 15 years, so what do you think about me investing in Renault? And I'd say,
Don't do it.
no.
Not even, I don't even need to hesitate. Like, I don't even need to pretend. Like, let's pretend
Nope.
and think about it. Like, don't be so quick about that. No, don't do
Yeah.
it.
I just said,
Not good enough, damn it. Not good
not
enough.
good enough.
No way, man.
Nope. So anyway, so that is what we have heading into 2026. We're going to have presumably Aston Martin and a Honda, Red Bull with its own engine, Mercedes with its own engine, Ferrari with its own engine, Haas with its own engine. No, Ferrari engine. We're going to have Renault with a Mercedes, McLaren with a Mercedes. Nobody with a Renault.
What would a Haas with its own engine be? Like pipe cleaners
That would be
and,
hilarious.
Tinker toys? Like, what is that?
No, it's an American. They'd end up doing something with Chevy. We took the Corvette engine. No, they're going to be all like all the rebuilders. It's an LS1, like everything else.
Exactly.
It's an LS1. We're going to put an LS1 in.
We just dropped. We got some friends, Camacho
Yeah.
got, 4 of his closest friends, and they just
Right.
dropped
Yeah.
it in there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but they're going to say like, but dude, this has got an Edelbrock on it and thrush mufflers. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's
I know
fine.
the type. I've met them.
Yeah, yeah. I have too. I'm not one of them.
No. Well.
Probably wouldn't take much to get me one. I could buy an old car like that. But anyway, so that's the story. The other big news this past week, and much expected, everybody said it in Singapore. Everybody knew it was coming.
Yep.
Daniel Ricciardo is out at RB. As expected, he's been released from RB in favor of Liam Lawson for the balance of the 2024 season. The tributes, best wishes, and accolades have been pouring, and I mean pouring in all week. And perhaps much of that is down to fans, industry folks, and drivers in the paddock feeling that the way this was done was quite an abrupt and unflattering manner, given
Red Bull?
given his footprint on the sport and his shining personality, right? People love to love Danny Rick, right?
Yeah,
I love Danny Rick. And I'm as big a fan as anybody of Danny. But I got to be honest with you. The amount of overflowing praise and social media adulation is teetering on the kind you normally see when someone has died or passed on. I mean, not not simply just being released from the team. He didn't die, folks. He's just not going to be in F1. I didn't see this kind of adulation and robe ripping over 4-time champion Vettel when he left.
But the difference is Vettel left on his own terms.
Well, there is that. You're right.
Right? Ricciardo is just like, you out. So I think that's part of it too, is that, people, it tears at your heart more. Not like death tears at your heart, but, he's just being thrown out in an unceremonious way that people don't like. So I think that's what kind of brings out the emotions more than if he was just like, I'm ready to go. I'm going to retire.
Yeah, maybe.
Right?
Maybe. And I get that. And what's not to like about D-Rick, right? But like I said, he didn't pass on. He's just not going to be in F1. In fact, there is life outside of F1, to be honest. And I've felt that Dan, I've said this before in podcasts and I took some incoming over it, but I just felt like Dan has never really clicked with the modern version of F1 since 2014 with the hybrids and all that. I just haven't really felt like he's clicked for whatever reason. I don't know if it's the brake-by-wire or the hybrid or the energy. I don't know, but something, he's at Renault, he's at McLaren, and just something has not clicked for him. However, I got to be honest with you, Grace. The thought of Danny driving a Porsche at Le Mans in LMP1 or the hypercar or a Ferrari or a Valkyrie or something, sign me up, dude. That's awesome. And I think Dan would be awesome in that series. And let's be perfectly upfront. That series would do nothing but benefit from the presence of Daniel Ricciardo and his charming smile and his personality and everything that he brings to a racing series that F1's enjoyed for years. So I think Dan would be great over there.
I think that's true. I mean, I don't think that anybody thinks he has zero talent, right?
Yeah.
But there just isn't space for him either. I think that's always a problem with Formula One, right? Like that's the backlog of the 20, kids that are trying to get in right now, is that there's just only 20 seats. It's just not enough space. And at some point, something had to give. And,
right.
Ricciardo just hasn't had the success that he did when he was with Red Bull. And so it was kind of like,
yeah.
That's what it's got to give. I just think it's hard because it's like, we're about to go to Austin. We're like his second home.
I know.
Right? I was like, can't they fire him after Austin? Like, can't we get just one more ride down the pit lane on the horse?
On a
right?
horse?
Like, I just think, we're being robbed of a moment by him being fired before Austin. But
Right. I don't know. Maybe Patreon supporter Miller Time's got a great idea about going over to NASCAR. He could go over to NASCAR and get in the number 3 Chevy like his hero, Dale Earnhardt.
People would love him.
People would love D-Rick in NASCAR.
They would love it. And he'd talk some trash.
He would.
It would be great. His no invitation for the torpedo kind of logic.
Yeah.
People would love that.
Americans love D-Rick.
Yeah.
They do. Now, having said all that, I get it. However, given Dan's personality, his brand equity, his footprint on F1, it does make it even more difficult for Liam. And to be fair, if he doesn't come out of the box scoring points, overshadowing Yuki, putting in great performances, he'll be judged on that, as he will be seen as the guy who, ended Dan's career, right? And that's a lot of pressure on Liam. That's, in my opinion, not really a fair situation for him. And I would caution us to have a little patience with Liam as he gets his sea legs. And it's probably good because the next race, he's going to start with a 10-place grid penalty due to an unscheduled engine change. So that probably will take the weight off his shoulders from having to be in the points and all that stuff, just to kind of ease in. He's going to start from the back of the grid, see what he can do from there, get his sea legs, and start that quest on moving forward. But, I'd hate to think that people's love for Dan and anger about the way all this went down would have some sort of collateral damage to Liam, because, Liam, like Dan, like anybody else, just wants to get a drive in F1, right? His parents mortgaged their house so they could get there, So it's, and that's a common reframe from all these drivers. So, just be patient.
I think the thing is that Ricciardo did this to himself in some ways too, right?
Yep.
I mean, yes, the prevailing rumor is that it was in Liam Lawson's contract, right, that forced Red Bull's hand to decide what they're going to do, either give him a seat or they were going to have to release him. Well, they don't want to release him, so then they have to give him a seat. But if Ricciardo had performed or had some past experience on performance, although you should never take what somebody did in the past for what they're going to do now, but it just hasn't panned out for him. So I think it's, it was in his hands too. And I think he knows that, that as much as you believe that you're going to win every race, you have to take that part of it too, that you could have done better and you could still be there. But there was just no way. I don't see... I think Red Bull kept him mostly because he did all the PR stuff that Max didn't like doing, right? Like, that's not really going to carry your career forever either.
Right.
At some point, you have to be successful. Smiles and jokes aren't enough if you're not going to perform.
Right.
And he knows that. And it doesn't help, much like Alonso, right? Maybe Indy, or maybe him being at McLaren was just bad timing.
Yep.
And it just didn't, he just wasn't there now, right? Like, imagine if he was there now.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
He's not. He's not at anywhere anymore. He's, at Minerva. So
Right.
timing is everything. Just ask Fernando.
Exactly. Another big news, Grace, involving your team, McLaren. The heading I had for this is McLaren the next Red Bull? McLaren announced the signing of long-term Red Bull strategist Will Courtney for the presumed 2026 season, as one assumes that there's some gardening leave involved here. McLaren has systematically risen from the ashes over the last 18, 24 months, and much of that has to be the leadership of Zach Brown. I think Zach and as well as support from the other investors, right, from the Middle East and et cetera, et cetera. And McLaren, they previously hired Rob Marshall and David Sanchez. I think Rob's from Red Bull. David's, I think he was Red Bull and Ferrari. And now they've got Will. So they're really poaching other teams. You got to consider, I think this is what I think that's interesting. They're doubling down on their footprint in the sport. Now, you could go to the wall if this is Christian Horner, Total Wolff, Ron Dennis, Frank Williams, something like that. But this is Zach, right? And if you consider him as an outsider who came into F1 from the U.S., you have to hand him some credit and some props for playing their game and beating them at it, right? I mean, he's poaching serious talent.
I think, if anything, underestimating Zach is his greatest strength, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, who really believes that? It's not as if he... I mean, like, I don't know, earlier we were talking about Flavio Briatore, right? He was a businessman. He wasn't in racing. Zach's only been in racing. It's not like, I mean, yes, IndyCar, Formula One, not the same, right? Sports cars, Formula One, not the same. But some component of that, like, behind the scenes brinkmanship is the same. And knowing everybody and talking to everybody and getting on the horn and all that kind of legwork that he's really good at. And he really is able to convince people to come to his team. He really knows how to build that firm foundation. And I think you see that even when people do leave his team. Nobody's leaving McLaren with the middles, right? Everybody's just like, I had this other opportunity, right? So I think it's all to Zach Brown. And I think if people underestimate him because he's an American or he didn't come from F1 roots, well, joke's on you, buddy.
Underestimate at your own risk.
Exactly.
Yep. Zach's a smart guy, and he's expanding not only McLaren, but he's expanding. He's involved in other Series 2 IndyCar and all that, and United Autosport, et cetera, et cetera. But I did pick up the news story this week that there wasn't a lot written about it, that Michael Andretti is stepping down from Andretti Global as the CEO, and it was also discovered that the Andretti Acquisition Corp 2 has a certain Zach Brown on the board as well.
I mean,
So
I may not like Michael Andretti, but Zach Brown, not dumb.
Yeah. And so I'm wondering what might be afoot here. Andretti's failed attempt to get into F1 couldn't be a catalyst for some of these recent moves, is it? I mean, Zach's role as a board member has an interesting twist, doesn't it? F1, the reason I say this, it may be nothing. It may be a tempest in a teacup, but F1 is like chess. Sometimes the movement of pieces are not ambiguous. They're deliberately setting up a strategy, right, for a bigger play that eventually takes the queen and checks the king. And I wonder if this is a shrewd move of a pawn or a rook by Michael and Zach et al. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think you kind of have to, you have to read the board, right? You don't just have one move. You kind of have a little over here that could go this way and a little over here that could go this way. And so, you got to keep kind of your finger on the pulse of many different directions, because maybe this Michael Andretti thing will pay off.
I know.
Maybe it won't, but
Maybe it won't.
They know each other. They're tight.
They do.
So,
They're tight.
yeah.
They've known each other for years. They've done business together for years. Yeah, he and Zach. So, yeah, I think because Zach has always been in favor of Andretti coming into F1. He was one of the few team bosses that was. And there is a connection there back to U.S. racing and the Andretti name and Zach having worked with them for years. So there's a connection there for sure. And he's always been in support of it, while Toto and others were like, no. Anyway, it'd be interesting to see how that whole thing unfolds. If it unfolds to nothing, well, whatever. But I can't help but think there's some sort of F1 twist to this, because Michael and Andretti are all in with General Motors, right? And they're all poised, and GM is all poised, and everybody's ready. And so I'm just curious how that'll work.
I think it helps too to have an insider, right? Like, that has to help Michael Andretti's case as much as I don't want that to happen. But having somebody that sits, on his side that can be a voice when he doesn't get to be in the room, right? When these talks are happening. So it's good to know that you have somebody that's scratching your back.
It's good to have Zach, having your back, right?
That's right, exactly.
Zach's got your back.
Yeah. So I think that's and it's an interesting twist, if you will, for Formula One.
It's an interesting twist.
But of course, he's tight with Michael Andretti.
Yeah. All right.
We'll see how that goes.
Well, the next story is titled, well...
Nice.
You like how I beeped that?
I did.
Yeah.
Very nice. Good job.
Thanks, man. The FIA leveled a fine and public service penalty for Max Verstappen that had a knock-on effect of him not answering questions during the press conference, sort of a personal protest, right? He wasn't happy about it at all. Lewis Hamilton even said it was ridiculous, and he hopes Max doesn't serve the penalty because he wouldn't if it was him, right?
Right.
And so Lewis, and I think all the drivers thought it was nonsensical. Jos Verstappen weighed in and said that it's ridiculous. If Jos the boss weighs in, what are you going to do, right?
I'm sure he dropped a few expletives in there amongst the this is stupid, right?
I know, yeah. And then I was watching the race, the post-race interview in MotoGP where Pecco dropped the F-bomb. And I was like, oh, well, but that's not FIA, right? That's Dorna, right?
Yeah, that's right. They got time yet.
So Jos said that the penalty is the most ridiculous thing, and I think most tend to agree with him. And the question is, will this be another tempest in a teacup, like Lewis's jewelry that MBS tried to usher in? I don't know. But now we have to watch the balance of the season and who says what, and we got to be careful. And
it's not just who says what, it's who says what where.
Yes.
Because I think the thing not only is this, you make the Ben Yaya comparison, right? But it happens. But I think it's that literally Drive to Survive. I had a friend who was like, oh, I'm getting into Formula One. She has 2 kids, right? Small kids. She's like, how come she never told me about Drive to Survive? I was like, because you have 2 kids that they saw an insurance commercial walk around for weeks going, expired, 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 expired. And you want me to tell you to watch Drive to Survive? I don't think that's a good idea, right?
Yeah, so 5 minutes after Gunther, they'd be dropping F-bombs.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think to me, it's not so much that you swear or you don't swear. NASCAR went through this, where they tried to regulate the swearing for the sake of the children, right? And if you really cared about the sake of the children, fine, you could do it. But I went literally every other word on the radio is the F word. But they're in the press conference room in the sanctum sacred space, and you can't get out of here, right? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. If you ban the F word everywhere, I think that's going to be hard to come by, but still fine. At least you're being consistent. But the fact is, in these 4 walls, don't dare. But I loved it. I love that Max Verstappen did his own sort of like Marshawn Lynch, I'm just here so I don't get fired. If you have questions, we'll go outside. And you can see the pictures, right? It's him and it's like all the media around him like, this is great. This is great for Formula One. I mean, and again, it's like Lewis showing up to press conferences with like 6 watches, like, right? Like, oh, what? I wear too much jewelry? That's a problem? What are you talking about? And that was totally undone by Kevin Magnussen going, well, what about my wedding ring? Nobody thought of that. How many people at that table that came up with that rule about paying wedding rings? Like, none of you were married. None of you thought of that, right? So I just think this is ludicrous. This is once again ludicrous.
I know.
I don't understand a sport where literally they swear all and the F-bomb, not just like, oh, the little swear. That's a pretty big swear word, right? Like to most people, if you're anti-swearing.
Like, what the?
Like, right. You know, I just thought, like, you know, I don't know. You're just creating an environment where, well, maybe this is me and my operational defiance disorder, but I would figure out what words I could say that were kind of like, can I say the S word? Oh, I'm just going to say the S word all the time then, right? Like, whatever.
Can I say crap?
That gets me up to the line, or I'd ask a million questions like, I have this list. Could you circle on this? Which ones can I say? Can I say this? Can I say this? Like, you're going to have like a censorship board like you do on, regular TV, right?
The F-bomb, I mean, it's a different category.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, I would really want to know. And then what about swearing in other languages, right? Like, that often comes up.
Yes.
Just learn the curse words in, like, I don't know, Bulgarian or something, just to see what I could get away with.
Right. I agree.
You're just poking the bear. I just think this is, like, dumb. Of all the things that this is what you're going to go with. So
yeah, it's like patron sport Richard said, just like when NBS pulled the mechanics off the pit wall celebration, the guy picks the weirdest fights within F1.
Yeah,
and he does. It's just odd.
And I think the other thing too is that if you really were concerned about this for some unknown reason, you really were worried about the children, you just pull them aside and you go, listen. Like, we have this conversation, right? I swear more than you do. But we're trying to keep this podcast at a certain place. So, Grace, you need to not swear like a sailor during the podcast. Children listen to it. We need to keep our rating at a certain place, right? Like, it's a conversation we've had, right? That's all you'd have to do. You just have to say, hey, Max, when you're in these 4 walls, this goes out on the international feed. Do you think you could just be careful about not dropping the F-bomb? That's it.
Max ought to go up and say, Mered.
But he didn't. He had to make it a whole thing.
I know, made it a big deal.
I don't understand. I do not. But
I don't either. I don't get it either. But that's where we are. That's where we are.
Yeah.
What does Sam say here? Sam says they can have software that bleeps certain words. There you go. AI, baby.
But I think we've all been in that place where you say, you drop a curse word or something and you're just like, oh, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Like, we're humans, and, stuff happens and whatever. That's fine. I've definitely been in meetings where I've said, like, drop the S-bomb or something. I'm like, well, I really didn't mean to say that. And we all just laugh and move on.
Melton says that your cursing can make a truck driver blush.
I'm just saying. I went in, sailors came out. But that's not the point.
It's true. You should hear her pre-show, man.
But I just don't.
I blush. I get embarrassed.
It's the same thing with the jewelry. Like, I don't understand. Or the mechanics on the, like, if you're really like a safety concern, all you have to say is like, hey guys, I'm concerned about this. And they'd be like, you're a fool. And that would be the end of the conversation. But instead you make it this big public thing, and now you're a fool in front of all of us.
I know. Earrings, mechanics on the wall, grid girl. Oh. So, let's see. Oh, hey, another big news. Yes, another big news. Haas.
Oh, no, it all went wrong.
Haas loses in court. Did you see this?
I did.
A U.S. judge has dismissed the court case against Gunther Steiner, who Grace and I, like Madonna, he's on a one-word name, just Steiner. You just say Steiner globally and everybody knows who he's talking about.
Before you go any further,
yes,
I would just like to, on behalf of everybody who listens and Paul Charsley, please never let Gunther Steiner ask the post-race questions ever again. Whose idea was that? How hard is it for you to say, hey, good race. tough time out there, or what, like, the questions they usually ask are so generic. You could just go watch, like, the last 20 races and steal some questions, right?
Right.
I'm just like, for as much as I was like, Felipe Massa, this really shouldn't be his job. This should be his job before it's ever Gunther Steiner's job again.
I know.
That was terrible. That was terrible.
Yeah. I'm surprised they don't hustle Karoon snap overseer Chandhawk down there.
Anybody. I mean, I think you could have just grabbed a person from the stands and they would have done a better job. Really, all you have to do is go, hey, great job out there. And they go, oh, yeah. And they just speak. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like they're really answering your question. They're just, they have what they're going to say. And those are their 3 bullet points. And that's what they're going to say.
Right.
Like, what a disaster. Okay.
This isn't rocket surgery. Come on.
It's not.
Yeah, it's crazy. So they lost us. So the judge dismissed the court case against Steiner over a trademark case. Apparently, Gunther had used the Haas branding and trademarks in his books, had some pictures of some cars with Haas logos on it, and the team were looking for a judgment on that and trademark infringement. And the court said this, quote, "The effing book recounts Steiner's experience as team principal of the effing Haas F1 team during the 2022 season, using photos that include the Haas marks as an artistic choice to provide additional context about the effing 2022 season with the Haas F1 team. Here, there is no explicit indication, overt claim, or explicit misstatement that the source of the work is Haas effing automation. While there's an argument the photo on the cover implicitly suggests endorsement or sponsorship, there is no explicitly misleading statement or suggestion by way of the Haas marks. Accordingly, defendants' use here of one of the Haas marks is protected under Rogers' defendants' motion is therefore effing granted." There you go.
Yes, so they weren't in the FIA press conference room when they...
Right. Okay, so I may have added the effing word in there. So
it's better that way. I like it.
It is. Can you imagine the judge, having spent time with Gunther, rendered that judgment?
That's right. Do a better job, buddy.
Maybe they're fishing buddies, over in, where does he live? North Carolina or something like that? Yeah. Hey, speaking of North Carolina, gosh, man, horrible. No. So sorry for all the folks in Asheville and that whole region.
And Tennessee, that's...
And Tennessee, yeah, brutal.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's pretty wet here, and we don't have any flooding, but we have the remnants of the hurricane. So
well, yeah, and I'm quite a ways northwest of that, and we had rain for, not heavy rain, but just rain all day for about a day and a half. So there's a lot of water in that hurricane. Yeah. So obviously, so there you go. All right. Hey, this other thing, let's do some Albin's Cats because it's a different kind of Albin's Cats, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because not only are we going to do your Albin's Cats, but when we get to the no headlines, we're going to bring up a headline that I thought was interesting, which will turn into a story. So if you give me a little creative leeway here, you'll see what I'm talking about.
It's your show, man.
I know, but people just, they hate.
The haters haven't made it this far, first of all. The haters were like...
It's probably true.
You guys hate Ricciardo. You hate Renault, too. We're out.
You guys hate Lewis. You guys hate Max. You guys hate Red Bull. You guys hate Toto. You hate Mercedes. I was like, oh,
this is actually one time where I support Max, so I think people should just enjoy that. Just take that. This is kind of like when I'm in a meeting and we're remote and somebody's like, Grace, you're still there. You haven't said anything in 20 minutes. Just enjoy the silence, right? Just enjoy that I've let you speak for 20 minutes without me interrupting. So
I know. I like when I get all the hate mail saying I hate Ferrari. I'm like, you sure about that? Are you sure about that?
At this point, even I like Ferrari because if it's anything, like I want Ferrari because I'd love for Red Bull to be third. How much would I love for Red Bull to be third? So I want Ferrari to be good. Not too good because I want McLaren to win the Constructors' Championship. But I want them to be better than Red Bull. So I am all in on Ferrari.
You're going to be a house divided. You're going to be a house divided because you're better. Your other half, I don't know about better. I'll let you render judgment on that. But your other half is a Lewis fan.
Yeah, I know. He keeps like. So I was joking as I was looking for what was I going to wear. First of all, I made the mistake of starting after Baku to be like, I got to buy an outfit for the next podcast, forgetting that we had Singapore. Like, well, I hope they do well Singapore because I've already picked my outfit.
They did. They won.
Woo! That was good. But yes, every time I start, because I remember back in the days, I'm sure you do too, when you couldn't get any merch in the United States, right? Like the only merch you could get was Ferrari merch because you had to order out of a magazine. You couldn't get anything from England. Now you can order everything off of Formula One has stores in the United States. You can get like the next day you can get stuff like Formula. It used to be you waited like 6 months for it to come from England on a special boat that was built by owls, right? Like it took forever to get anything, and it was so expensive, and it's still pretty expensive. But at least now I can get it in a day instead of waiting like 6 months for something to come. And it's nice that now I can actually buy all this random merch. And I did want to point out, this was like the best random find. Hold on. Because I bought some McLaren shoes that I can't just like, I was like, how are you going to show them the shoes? I was like, well, I don't think like me throwing my leg up was a good idea. And I might injure myself. So that's probably not a good idea. I like
the McLaren shoes.
But yeah, they're the K-Swisses, like they were on sale. Like, yeah, sure. And I haven't worn K-Swisses since high school.
I know.
I really think that's the last time I bought them.
I didn't know they were still in business.
These are super comfortable.
Are they?
I would highly recommend them. They have some sort of like, this is now people certainly are no longer listening. But like kitchen mats,
Yeah.
That's what that's like. This is what it feels like inside. Wow. So it's got a nice little kitchen mat in there.
Nice.
So I recommend them.
That's interesting. When I was at Indy with Paul and his team, everybody on that team is on a sneaker brand, like a running shoe on ON, I think. Everybody in that team was wearing those. Everyone. They all had it. And Paul goes walking out, and I said, so are those coming? Oh, yeah, these are real good. So who knew? So if you want to be like the Heart of Racing team, you could buy those. And if you want to be like Grace, you could buy the McLaren K-Swiss.
But you can buy anything now. It's great. It was just like my inner, like, where was this 20 years ago?
I know. I don't know what to do now. Do I have to show my shoe?
I don't know. Do you have Ferrari shoes?
No.
I mean,
I do have Ferrari shoes, but no.
Nice.
I'm not wearing them.
I just think that I also realized that post Baku, I put more effort into what was I going to wear than I think I put in like 20 years of doing the show. That's the most effort I've put into because
nice.
I was thinking, I went with the bob because I thought of there's a picture of Michael and Rubens, like with the red bob.
Yeah, with the red one. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I could go with the bob. This kind of matches my natural hair. And a little Michael Schumacher shout out, Hey, just to support you, I'm kind of proud of this shirt. All these goofy racing polos that I have, right? I have all these racing polos because I love them. I actually have a black one with papaya, and on the back it's a McLaren. See?
And it says McLaren and it has the number 4 on back.
Look at that.
So I do have a McLaren Ralph Lauren polo with the number 4 on the back. And I'm pretty damn proud of that. And, that's your team. So
I'm
like
proud
McLaren.
Too. I did before, since we were talking about Baku and Singapore, I did just want to put out there that and I texted you and Paul as soon as this happened. When Sergio Perez took out Carlos Sainz at Baku, that's it. He's Sergio Marquez from now on. What the hell? I'm so mad.
Is he dead to you?
Well, I don't know that. I mean, he was alive before. I mean, he's been a McLaren. I have some affinity for him, but
You like my face? You like it?
No.
And Ron screwed him over, so I do have some affinity for Sergio Perez. But from now on, until they force him out, he'll be Sergio Marquez, as far as I'm concerned.
Sergio Marquez. That's awesome. See, I'm representing Carlos. I got Spain.
That's right.
I could be Fernando Alonso here. I've got Spain on number 10,
Very good. I do also want to point out that I am now a whole 3 points ahead of part of Paul Charsley in the Park for May Fantasy League. How excited was I?
It's awesome.
Lando Norris won the race. Piastri. I was trying to make that like Verhambot. That really didn't work. But anyway, the new Verhambot, I'm all for this. That's fine. And then, Flip quickly pulls up, our team and is like, we're beating Paul. So
it's awesome.
For 3 weeks, I get to ride out. We're ahead of Paul's team by.
I know. It's amazing, and it doesn't matter. I damn near picked the whole podium and didn't increase one spot. I'm literally sinking like a stone into the cushions of a couch. Yeah. I'm going to be down there with the rest of the chip gut and a coin or two. It's terrible. It's amazing. Yeah, I'm so horrible this year at this, and I have McLaren as a team. And the other side, which I have Mercedes, McLaren, and Red Bull. I don't know. It's just I don't know. I missed it.
For us, it's always the back marker team, right? Because you only have so much money to afford, and it's like, I know. Aston Martin.
I think I got Williams.
Haas, yeah. See, we have Albon as our one of our drivers. So.
Well, that's good. It's a good pick.
Yeah, that's where we get those points. But we've been sticking with Aston Martin. But of course, all the points come from Alonso, and none of them come from Lancey. So it doesn't really help you from a team standpoint. But
I agree. I agree.
Doesn't work out money wise to put Alonso as one of our.
No, it doesn't.
It's one of our team people. So
let's do some Alvin's cats. Okay, Alvin's cats. Hit me, Grace.
Well, I do want to continue this bad mouthing of F1 that it is worse than MotoGP because it continues to be great. Ever since I feel like I've picked Formula One to be worse than MotoGP, MotoGP has been great. Formula One has been great. So I'm just going to continue to, I don't know, Masana was all right. But, I'm just going to continue because Formula One, I need you. What do we have, like 6 races left? I need this to continue to be exciting. I need this to continue to be, where I'm pacing again. How long has it been since that's happened?
Well, there's one thing that's grinding me. How did we end up with a 3-week summer break and then right after that, a break that's longer than the summer break?
Who's scheduling? What's going on there?
Why are we doing that? Why not just close it up a little bit and end the season earlier so I'm not unwrapping Christmas presents while I'm trying to watch a race?
Well, you mean like we will be next year? The season goes to December. What the heck?
What? I mean, seriously, what happened?
Hey, what happened?
I don't get it.
Know. And the thing is, too, is that MotoGP just put out their 2025 calendar. And the thing is that they have no triple headers and very few double headers. They really put space in between. And that was what all the riders were like. And, like the personalities or whatever, they're just sort of like, oh, that's nice. That is nice that I'm not flying, from Italy to Indonesia, to Japan, to Australia. What a nice idea. Right?
Yeah.
Like as a human being, it's nice that I get a break in between.
Sure.
It's like,
and you should.
And Formula One, I don't know why we have like spring break 1, spring break 2.
I know. Why do we have 4 weeks off?
I don't know. Hey, you know what, MBS? Instead of being mad about Max Verstappen swearing, why don't you fix this problem? Why don't you do something useful?
Yes, I agree.
Watching some racing at this, and especially at this point in the season, it's been really good, and we've got nothing. It's just dying on the vine. This is the worst thing you'd want from a promoter's perspective,
isn't it? I think. Come on, MBS.
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
Exactly. So, but yeah, I'm just gonna keep on the Formula One train because then it's been pretty good and it proved me wrong.
Well, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That all you got?
Well, I think my only other complaint is that I am too busy, and then I'm watching sports. I mean, life is what it is, but right. NFL started. We're at week 4, about to start week 5, right?
I know. Did you see the Chiefs squeak out another win yesterday?
They did. Grief. I also watched the Ravens to win the Ravens Buffalo Bills game, to which Lamar Jackson was wearing a woolly hat. I was like, first of all, are they in Buffalo? They're not. They're in Baltimore. I'm like, it's 70 degrees here. What is he? So then that became every time they showed him on the sideline, he's dressed like it's winter. It's 70, man. There's a hurricane out there. What are you dressed like this for? But, keep on doing it. If it's going to make you win, keep on doing it, I guess. Right?
Be a winner like this guy.
Oh, there you go.
See, you got to watch the YouTube version. I'm showing a picture of the dashingly handsome Paul Charsley there.
Unless it comes to fantasy, because I'm beating him. So
yeah, may not want to do Paul's picks there.
No, I don't know, but usually his picks are pretty good.
Yeah,
so
they are. They are. I know.
Good person.
You got to. Well, he's like James T. Kirk. You got to get up all for early in the morning to get one by him.
That is correct. But then, I also learned that we have a new Hell's Kitchen that's just started.
Yes.
A new Great Britain British Bake Off.
New Daryl Dixon.
MotoGP 3's Moto 3's been great. I'm like, people, when am I?
Have you
leaving
watched the
house?
slow horses yet? You haven't even got through that.
I haven't. I really want to though. Are you watching Slow Horses?
Yes.
No. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
That's on
Yeah.
our list.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
I enjoy
I'm
it.
currently pushing for Shogun as our next show, but we haven't made it.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
But Slow Horses is definitely on our list. So
Yeah, it's good. It's what's his face?
yep,
I
love that guy.
the guy.
I know. It's in all the spy movies. I don't know. I can't think.
Oh, that's terrible.
Oh.
You go, he's in that movie, Go Get Everyone. Who you mean everyone? Everyone! You know what it is. Yes. Oh my gosh, it's going to drive me nuts. Now I'm literally going to look it up because I'm having
Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman, good Lord. How can I? Gee
I don't
whiz.
know. Gary
That's-
Oldman. Yeah. No, yeah. It's supposed to,
he's great. That's good stuff. Then there's the guy who's married to the girl and he's Scottish, and then
this is how we used to play when I used to play pub quiz, because I don't have not a very good I can't come up with a name, but I'm like, okay, just hang out with me. Okay, this guy was in this with this and this, and we can piece it together and we get to the name. But I'm like, you gotta follow the breadcrumbs with me. That's the only way we're gonna get to who this actor is in order to get this one question in pub quiz.
But watch this, folks. Watch how sharp Grace is. Grace, in the past, of all the Formula One drivers, who's known for making the best pizza?
Fisichella.
There you go, folks.
One of those two.
There you go,
Fisichella,
folks. There you go. See? Like a sharp as a tack.
What's that guy up to now? Who knows?
What is Fissy doing? He was driving in sports car and GT. But I don't know what Fissy's doing. I miss Fissy. We need some Fissy.
I still think also every time I see Marc Genet just walking around the pit lane, right? And I'm just like, I forget, right? Of course, he doesn't look like how, I remember because that was 20 years ago. And I don't look like how I looked like 20 years ago. None of us do. That's what happens. But it's just
I've spent some time with Mark, actually, when I was doing stuff with Shell and Ferrari. And I've interviewed him a few times and spent time talking to him about the team. And even when the 1 year I was in the Paddock Club with Ferrari and he was there and we spent time watching the race a little bit. He's a super nice guy, really nice guy, really smart, totally gets it. I was really impressed with Mark. So there you have it. Mark's good people.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a headline that I saw that Mohammed bin Salem thinks the FIA isn't getting enough credit. Quote, we only get rubbish, end quote. Oh.
Remember the part earlier in the show when I talked about how Daniel Ricciardo is part of the reason why Daniel Ricciardo isn't in F1 anymore?
Yes.
MBS, you're part of the reason why the rubbish is happening.
Yeah.
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
I think we do.
He has control over that.
I know. Autosport had the exclusive interview, so you can go over there and check it out. They actually do. In fairness, Autosport does list several things that the FIA has initiated over the past season or two, and some of them are really good. In all fairness to the FIA, so I don't want to take the stuffing too much out of them, but I thought it was kind of interesting because. He said, so they were asking him in the interview if the FIA has received enough credit for solving the particular problems in F1. And he said, no, we will never get credit. Impossible. We only get rubbish. That I know. He thinks that, and I'm reading Autosport's words here, so check them out. He thinks that the FIA not only deserves more credit, but also deserves more on the financial side for all the investments it's made. You see how that you just gotta follow the money here, right? Because no matter what's going on, Eddie everywhere, he's all about the money, right? He thinks, he said, when you look at it, everybody made money out of the FIA. Everyone except the FIA. Everyone gets the credit except FIA. It's true. When I took over, we had a running operating cost of minus 20 million. Why? Because we have our income as everybody. But look at the promoters, and good on them. I congratulate them. They're smart enough to do that. But I'll be very, very honest as always. So Liberty Media did a great job in transforming Formula One. If you tell me if I could go back in time, would I undo that? No way. I wouldn't undo that, but I would just make sure that the FIA is two equals with them. They're a good promoter. They are. If you ask me today, is there anyone who is capable as much as them? I can't see that there isn't. I suppose them in what they're doing, the FIA works with them in the best possible way, but then the regulations and the governance is the work of the FIA, and then let everyone make money. Let the drivers have fun, race in a safe way and make money, and let the team principals make more money, and they are, but the FIA will never get the credit. Impossible, end quote. There we go.
What?
Oh boy, I'm surprised they didn't put it at the end. And we're not rappers. We don't rap.
Oh my god.
I'm trying to say, what the?
Yeah, exactly. Nobody cares about us. That's
Yeah.
I don't know that I have ever. So this would be. I mean, this is my third FIA administration. I don't know that any of them I've ever been like, oh, thanks. I don't know that that's
Thanks,
really.
FIA. Thank you.
Yeah, yay.
Well, you probably did with the Hans device and the Halo and those kind of things.
Yes, but that's also not just. I mean, right. I mean, safety is their jam, but that's not just them. But I guess I just don't know what he's expecting. I guess that's all I'm saying is that it's like I'm not whatever.
He wants money. More money.
Okay, cool. Well, you keep having races in the Middle East, and that's what will happen.
There you go. There you go.
I just to me as a fan, it
more
just
guitars.
Like, cry me a river is what I read from that. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry your life is so hard.
I guess they burnt through that cash Bernie gave them for 99-year lease on the rights to broadcast Formula One. That's all gone.
I guess so. I don't know. Like, instead, it's just not the way I would go about it. Like, just say what your accomplishments are. You don't have to make it a pity party in order to tell us, look how great we are. Like, to me, I'm of the firm, like, if you have to say I'm the boss, you're not the boss, right?
Right.
If you have to tell me how great you are, then you're not doing a very good job at it.
Yes, I agree.
I don't know.
I don't know, MBS. I don't know about that, Tiger. May want to go back and, I don't know. It's a matter of time, isn't it?
Goodbye, good luck, and good riddance.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of time. Probably not short enough time for some team bosses. So there you go. You got a friend visiting you, I see. It's like, hey. Is this podcast over? Come on, it's International Podcast Day.
He does that while I'm working. He'll just like jab me in the side with one claw, like, oh.
And you're like,
Not friendly.
No, that's because this is his like, now's the time we sit downstairs and you put a blanket on your lap and I take a nap. And he's very grouchy.
Yes.
It's his nap time.
Of course.
It's tough. It's tough being Levi.
So before we close out of the podcast, I do got to say, Sam, Patreon support Sam. So Sam was said, okay, look, He's had enough of my dragging this out and not doing anything. And so Sam said, let's do this. And I think it'd be great for the off season. So he wants to have a Patreon supporter wine and cheese event.
Okay.
Right? So we all join, all Patreon supporters, you, Paul, and I, we all get on a call like this one, right? And we all have a wine and cheese event. And then, he and I had discussed back and forth, there's these places where you can call and order like a little sample set of wine, right? And we could pick those, and we could pick a couple sample cheeses, and whoever, you don't have to, but whoever would want to order one of those, you could get those in, and then we could all try them at the same time and try the cheese at the same time and enjoy and share our thoughts.
As long as they're saying Manchego, because Paul will not participate.
I told him,
no
I said, you know what? This is going to turn into an hour of Paul and Grace going on and on about Manchego. And I don't know that I want to hear it. It's like at this point, I'd rather talk about Asiago again before we talk about Manchego. Anyway, it's a great idea.
I'm all in.
Yeah. So all of you Patreon supporters who are listening and you haven't bailed out of the podcast, hit us up and Patreon and let us know if you guys want to do that, because that would be kind of fun. Just sit around, shoot the breeze, and talk while we're having wine and cheese. And Paul could be our wine steward, or you could be our wine steward, and Paul could be our cheese, whatever they call cheese people. I don't know.
Cheesemongers?
Cheesemonger. That's it. I knew there was a name.
Couldn't remember. Cheesemonger got that.
Cheesemonger, nailed. Gary Oldman, who the hell's that?
I don't know. He doesn't listen. It's fine.
No, he doesn't. Wouldn't it be funny if he did?
Wow, that would be pretty great.
He'd
I'd
say,
be pretty impressed.
Have everyone listen to the podcast. What do you mean everyone? Everyone!
I do also want to put this out there before we left. So before we close out, the race, we listened to their podcast. They just recently did a podcast on Spygate. And
did you get Scott Mitchell mommed?
I didn't listen to it. Flip sends me the link and he's like, I don't know why they want me to listen to this. According to my wife, it's only 3 pages and a signed picture of Michael Schumacher. What's the big deal? Spygate.
Hey, you saw Michael's daughter got married.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, she did. Got married. Nice. Good for her.
Sure. Right on.
Yes.
I hope there were some horses.
Yeah. Well, it was in Spain somewhere at their villa in Spain. I think it was a very private affair, of course.
Well, for sure. And,
it should be.
And they're like 300 closest friends, right? That's fine.
Yeah. So, Gina Marie, congratulations. Yeah, good on you. Wish you and your new husband the very best. Yeah. Good for you. So, all right. Okay. Let's back out of the podcast, shall we?
Sure.
It's been an hour. Why not? All right.
Yeah.
Hey, a huge thank you to our Patreon supporters, some of whom have joined us live. I'm looking at the chat. They've joined us live and they're chatting with us in real time. We're having conversations as we go through this podcast. You too could do that. If you'd like to support us, you can just go over to our website, and on the right-hand side and down at the bottom, it says support us. You can become a Patreon supporter, and you can do this for as little as $1. And you too could join us when we record our podcast. And a huge thank you to you guys in particular, because we could not and would not do this podcast if it wasn't for you. You very people in the chat, I'm talking about you. We couldn't do this without you guys. So incredibly grateful and very humbled for your support. And I mean that. And if you like the podcast, go give us a good rating on your favorite player. Spread the love. Share it with friends. Tell people about it. Maybe even tell MBS about it. I think we're here to help and coach. These are coaching moments for MBS. And I think Grace and I can coach him to excellence as an FIA president.
Look what we've done for Stefano. We
I
can
know.
do this for you too.
Made
sir.
the guy's career.
Look at that.
I know.
Shmari.
I know.
He was nothing until he listened to us.
It was nothing. He was languishing over Ferrari until we got him moved into
languishing
over there. So
I remember the languishing years at Ferrari.
don't I? So anyway, yes. So you share that. And if you'd like to share your opinions, you can do so. Just go to theparkforme.com and share your opinions. And we will be back next week to talk about whatever Formula One news happens. I'm sure there will be some. And until that time, when we do it all over again next week, this is Todd, a.k.a. Negative Camper, saying so long, Grace.
See you next week.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
I don't feel I've got to prove at all. I don't really want to prove anything. I started as an amateur with no idea or no intention of becoming world champion. I was curious to find out what it was like to drive a car fast, to drive on a certain circuit, to drive a certain type of car.